The moment you decide to look outside of yourself for value is the moment you give your rights away to be authentically you. Your value is not in what your mother thinks of you, what your father thinks of you, what your family and friends think of you. Your value is what you think of yourself. That is the secret to authentically loving and being you.
Welcome to Soul Food with Sadie. It's time to feed your soul, uplifting others through inspiration, motivation, and edifying the soul so we can be the best version of ourselves. Here's your host, Sadie Evans.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in to Soul Food with Sadie. I have yet another episode for season 3, Pressing Through Pressure. And I am so honored that Melissa Miller decided to be a guest on the show. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, I am a former certified nursing assistant. I did that work with long-term care health facilities for 15 years. And now I have shifted gears and I am a full-time stay-at-home mother and I am a spousal caregiver. And I am also building an online business to help younger stay-at-home moms who are adjusting also to being a spousal caregiver for their chronically ill spouse.
Okay, that's amazing that you do that. So thank you. Anybody in the healthcare field, they need to be honored. So we thank you. This season is all about pressing through pressure. So I'm going to ask you, what does pressing through pressure mean to you?
I think it just really means being present for one, but just really sometimes just having those boundaries of where you give yourself grace and you just stop and breathe and you just do what you can do within that moment, because there's always going to be something else that we need to be doing or we should be doing or we feel pressured to do, because we live in a very fast-paced world, unfortunately. And I think for our well-being, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, we really just need to tap into the idea that it's okay if we need to kind of slow down and pull back. And what everyone else expects of us isn't always what is best for us. And that is okay. There's always going to be somebody that has an opinion about what they think we should do or not do. And so I think it's just really important to do what you know in your heart and soul, since it's soul food, is right for you. And that is tapping into what you believe spiritually, what you can handle mentally, emotionally, and physically within the season of life that you're in, and just being okay with that. And it's going to look different. And within your journey, it's going to look different as time goes on as well. So be flexible and leave it open-ended to meet the needs that you need in the season that you're in.
Yes, that is so amazing that you said that, because a question was presented to me by my spiritual self. And the question was, who are you? What is your purpose? And a lot of times we search outside of ourselves for this purpose when really it's in us all along. So that is so good you said that. And I heard you speak about it looks different at different times in our life. So do you believe in seasons in life?
I certainly do. The season that I'm in now is way more complicated than it was in the first couple of years of my husband's and I's marriage. We've been married for almost 11 years, and life looks obviously so different now than it did when we first got married. There was no chronic illness. I mean, on my end, I already had hypothyroidism, but I wasn't diagnosed with IBS yet. We hadn't battled infertility yet when we were starting to try. We didn't know we would battle infertility to try to have a baby. And my husband wasn't diagnosed with epilepsy yet. So the season of life that we're in now is way different. Our perspective and our expectation, if you will, of how we thought we would raise our daughter and what we would do in the professional world too. We thought we would both be workforce people for the rest of our lives. Never for a million years did we think that because of my husband's illness that he would have to pull back to part-time or less to manage his epilepsy, because stress is a factor, and go on disability at 53. That is just not, that is 53 to 54 years old. That's not expected. And it's also derailed my career. I left healthcare, a 15-year career that I thought I would be in until I retired and do long after my husband retired, because there was a 20-year age gap.
Yes.
And it's derailed how we anticipated parenting our daughter because of my husband's illness. I can never leave him home alone with her ever again for safety because she's only 3.5. So she can't call 911. She can't give medication. She can't write detailed notes about what she's seeing happening with her father. So I have the medical tips and information I need to pass along to our medical team when they need to make decisions regarding my husband's health to manage his illness. So it's totally changed everything and how we thought we would raise our family, our careers. But I do want to say that just because the season might be hard and the season might be different than what you anticipate, it doesn't mean that it still can't be good. I am so thankful that God has opened up the door for me to be able to work from home for one. It's unconventional than what I thought. I have family that went to school to do all this stuff that I'm doing. I'm learning all the tech stuff and doing stuff and marketing and business that I didn't go to school for. I have a healthcare certification that took me 3 months to get. I don't have a formal background in business. And so I think it's so cool how God has brought me full circle and I'm still being able to bring something beautiful and positive out of our hard situation by being a coach and helping these women who are not being advocated for, because it was my business exists out of the sheer need, because I was struggling too. I would have paid for a mentor and a coach when I started my journey, but I could find nothing that was targeting younger moms dealing with caring for their spouses before 65, before you anticipate health problems starting. And I'm choosing to use my gifts and talents of my former healthcare training to be able to teach people how to handle an illness that they have no knowledge about, and also just raise awareness for chronic illness and just bring something positive and some hope out of a really extenuating season of life that we never thought we would be hit with. Because if it can happen to me, it could happen to another family. You don't have to have medical history in your background to get a chronic illness. My husband usually speaking to what I know about epilepsy, usually it's caught either when you have prior family history or it's caught when you're a child. My husband falls in that 20 to 30% of the population that for no apparent reason, without any prior medical history, within their lifetime, they will contract some sort of seizure disorder or specifically epilepsy. And that's really tough because think about it. You're not mentally, emotionally, or spiritually prepared of knowing that this is potentially in the pipeline for your journey. And it totally just derailed us.
I understand how that can be derailing. And I really see the positivity that you are showing in this situation. I heard you speak about perspective. And I believe that when we shift our perspective from why me to what can I learn from this, we are able to grow. And I feel like you are at that place, because if you were not, you wouldn't have birthed a coaching business out of it.
No.
And sometimes I believe that God allows things to happen to push you into who you are designed to be. Again, it goes back to that question. What is your purpose? I'm sure chronic illness and things that came down that pipeline was not something you imagined for your life. However, it pushed you into your purpose.
Absolutely. And that's the thing I think we need to tap into. You don't have to be building a 6-figure business like I am, or a coaching business like I am, or have a prior 15-year healthcare career to be able to make an impact. Okay.
Yes.
I firmly believe that we are all gifted and talented with special, unique talents that God wants us to use.
Yes.
Now, it's going to look different for everybody, and you're going to learn new skills. When I started my business, I had a traditional blog and I had a whole different website than what I have now. And I thought I would be a traditional blogger and go that route. But what I came to realize over the first year of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be with my business, I figured out I'm not really a strong writer. It's not my strong thing. I like to journal for self-care. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It's definitely very therapeutic. But in terms of marketing and sharing my heart, writing is just not my strong suit. I'm more of a talker and encourager. So like being guest on podcasts, coaching, voice memo coaching, and the programs that I'm creating where I'm getting to speak more than write. That's my strong point. Now, as a marketer for my business, of course, I do need to learn good writing skills for copy, because that is part of a skill I need to personify and master. Okay. But at the same time, long term, going to play to my strengths about what I want to do. So down the road, I definitely am looking at a VA and things like that to do the back end of the writing and dealing with the emails so I can focus more on coaching. And that is fine. Pay attention. If for those who are listening, pay attention to what your strong strengths are. What do you like to do? What lights you up inside? What makes you so excited? And then, pay attention to the places where you're maybe not so strong. But if it is a component of something that does light you up, be inspired to like, okay, I might be a little weak in this area, but dang it, I'm going to figure it out. So like for me personally, just using it as an example, I'm going through a Kate Doster course right now. Not her big Love Your List course, but I'm doing her email marketing fairy course right now. And that is really helping me work on my writing skills. And so leverage resources is another tip I would give, is figure out what your strengths are and then figure out, okay, I want to move forward. So what do I need to do? What kind of resources do I need to leverage to work on those weak points? But then what can I do that highlights those strong points? So for me, I'm not a strong writer, so I'm going to leverage a good email marketing course, but then at the same time, and to practice my writing skills, because I do need to get better at that. But then I'm also going to leverage how I like to speak and inspire, and I'm more comfortable being in front of the camera and coaching and talking and being on voice messages and coaching that way versus just doing a lot of written content. So blog posts, and stuff like that. I mean, I do a little bit of it, but it's not my strong strength. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on something that isn't a strength that I can really leverage. So look for those leverage points.
Exactly. And sometimes a lot of individuals, they try to pick up everything and they master none. So I have a question. What would you name this season?
That's a very interesting question. I love that. I think it is definitely a season of transition. It was definitely I'd say 2 years ago about now, because we are July. It's interesting that we're having this conversation because 2 years ago, exactly this month is when, in July 2 years ago, was when my husband finally got diagnosed with epilepsy. And that's when I had been on medical leave between May and July of 2020 because my husband's health was just skyrocketing. He was just having 10 to 20 plus seizures a month. It was so bad. And we were blowing through medication after medication and transitioning doctors. So it was really crazy. But that was a crazy month. That was when I ended up giving my notice at my job and really deciding to go hardcore with my first blog. And I was like, I have no clue what I'm doing. So I'd say 2 years ago, I was out of my head. I had no clue where to go. Now I'm in a season where I know I've been working with my business coach for 2 years. I have a website that actually works for the vision I have for my work. I am networking more and speaking about my business and sharing my heart and marketing my offers and learning where I need to leverage more focus on those weak points that we talked about. So I would say it's a different type of transition, but it's a more clear transition where I know where I want to go now and I know what I need. And I'm also leveraging other areas maybe now in this season that I need. So like I'm really amping up on my spiritual care. So I realized after the trauma of the first 2 years, 2020, I did not prioritize my whole body self-care at all. And then all of 2021, I was sick because I was just so sick with my gut attacks. I get some from hypothyroidism, but these went beyond that of what the baseline normal was for me. And because I had skipped wellness visits and I did not keep my medical team in the loop, we had no clue where to start to figure out what was wrong. And so I didn't get diagnosed with my IBS until December of 2021. And then I didn't start medication and treatment until January, February of 2022. So this year is definitely a year of recovery and then just realizing there's still trauma from everything we've gone through with my husband's health. Because even with epilepsy, you can die from it. It's called SUDEP, sudden unexpected death. And we had that happen with a coworker of my husband's. He passed away of a seizure. So it's scary. And so there's trauma around that. So I'm really amping up spending time, getting back in the habit of spending 30 minutes in the morning, first thing before I do anything about work with the Lord. God has blessed me with some spiritual coaches that I'm working with now. So, but are also ambitious women because they're doing a business, but it's curtailed around Christian content. But it is a business where they're still marketing it as well, and getting members and doing all the things. So they understand to have two Christian coaches that are Christian based and yet ambitious to like, okay, the Lord has laid in our heart that for our model, for our business, this is what we want to talk about. but it's still the same thing. They're having to learn new skills, balance motherhood and
Yes.
anything else that life throws, because that's the thing. Whatever season you're in, life doesn't stop. Other things come. Like last year, I was dealing with IBS. We were still on and off dealing with my husband's up and down health. I had a toddler. I had a 2-year-old. And then on top of that, my mom passed away. So things keep happening. You don't know what's going to happen. No one can predict it.
Yeah.
So be present in the now, soak in the seasons that you're in. Like, even though life is so crazy, I'm soaking up time with my little girl. She's 3.5 and she's growing so fast. And I don't want her to look back that even though the forefront was dealing with my own health, mommy's, dealing with her own health, and more importantly, daddy's really dealing with a really tough health issue. I don't want her to look back and go that mommy and daddy weren't present. And I don't want to look back on this time of, regret either, from the standpoint as a wife that I wasn't there or present, or from the standpoint of as a caregiver, I didn't do enough, or from the standpoint of building my business that I wasn't doing everything that I could to, raise awareness and also just really be present with and clear about where the Lord and paying attention to where I feel the Lord is taking me with my work. So there's so many different moving components. It's not just one thing. But there's that fine line of balance, I think, between choosing to be overwhelmed, choosing to be confused, but then grounding yourself. For me, for those of you who are listening, even if you're not spiritually sound where you believe specifically in God, but tap into your inner spiritual self. What you believe, leverage that. If you're going through a dark season, maybe it is time to reconnect with your leader of faith. Do a one-on-one with your pastor or your leader of faith. Get plugged back into your community. We've been going back to church now that we're not, in lockdown so much. And that has been really helpful to just reconnect around community. And also, I know personally for me, like I shared, just getting back, leveraging some resources to just really be intentional with my time with the Lord every morning. So it helps. It all ties in together. It's not just one separate at all.
Yes. So in this season of transition, how do you find time to show gratitude? Like, what are some things that you do to show gratitude for the lessons that you're learning in this? Because I truly believe that in all that we do, we should be learning lessons so that we can move forward in life.
It's interesting you said that. I just did a devotional this morning that touched on this a little bit. So it's like, thank you, Lord. The devotional I read this morning, it talked about the story of Abraham, where he was ultimately going to sacrifice his son on an altar. But God slayed his hand and provided a ram to be a sacrifice instead. And the whole context of the devotion was how God provides, and how we have to trust God to provide. Obviously, Abraham didn't want to sacrifice his only son. He was a miracle son after years of praying for an heir for his family. And God had made a covenant and a promise with him that you will be the father of many nations. And God slayed his hand. He's like, okay, I see that he's faithful to me and that he loves me. And I have made a promise to him that he will be the descendant of multiple nations. So if I have him kill his son, that's going to totally defeat the purpose. And he provided the ram. So same thing is true for me, I think, and for all of us, that even though it seems like it's crazy and there's no way out, God already knows what we're going to go through. All right. And he'll stop your hand if you're getting into trouble, but you have to trust him. And then the other context is, because one of my spiritual coaches was talking about, she shared about how component of trust with that is that we sometimes make the bad choice of taking the lead. We jump in, but when we shouldn't. We instead of being patient and trusting the Lord to provide the answer, regardless of how long it takes, we think, oh no, God's not listening, I need to take action. And we try to take control of the situation. When in reality, we need to be patient. We need to listen. We need to just trust the Lord's leading and his timing, because his timing is always perfect. So I could easily being 2 years into my business, I could be like, oh gosh, I'm not hitting 6 figures, or even my first goal of 3K, and I'm not doing anything right. And even though I know that this work has been laid on my heart, I'm not doing enough. No, I have to be patient. It takes time. People just aren't paying attention. I'm unknown. That's why I'm speaking so much to get awareness for my brand. And that's okay. And I'm learning my marketing skills. Even though I've launched my program 3 times this year, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just might mean, people aren't really paying attention, because we digest so much social media content that people just may not be paying attention. And so, and I haven't found the right client for me to work with yet. I want the right client that will invest and pay me, for one, because I honestly do need to provide for my family. But more importantly, from the spiritual side of it, it's a ministry. And so I don't want to work with just anybody. I want to work with the people that the Lord has really divinely sent
Connect.
my way because I'm meant to change their lives in one way, shape, or form. So you
Yes.
have to be patient. I know it's cliche and I know it's so frustrating. Believe me, your girl is not patient all the time, believe me.
Yeah.
But it's so important that we are. And
Hmm.
that's another skill. I think that's just a lifelong skill that we just have to learn. Are we good at being patient? No. Our culture is very pushed and driven towards satisfaction now. Like, oh, you want instant results? Oh, I have a perfect plan for that. And that is
Microwave
not,
generation.
yeah, it doesn't help. That doesn't help. That
Yeah,
doesn't help. So we're
it doesn't
trained,
at all.
programmed to
Yeah.
just have instant gratification and
Hmm.
results now, when actually in hindsight, we need to be patient. We
Yeah.
need to take action. We need to daily just take it one day at a time and give ourselves grace when we screw up. Because I mean, we're human bodies, we're human beings with souls, but we're not perfect. Only the Lord's obviously perfect and divine, but we certainly are not. And we're gonna screw up. We're gonna make mistakes. Honestly, Claudia, I'm gonna make mistakes as a wife. I'm gonna make mistakes as a caregiver. I'm gonna make mistakes as a mother. I'm gonna make mistakes as a business owner and a coach as I'm learning.
Correct.
But how do you want to choose to respond to that?
Hmm.
Is it from a place of wallowing of, oh, woe is me, I screwed up again, I'm the most horrible person and there's no way I'm going to learn or master these skills? No.
Yes.
Let's take it back to the other side of like, okay, I do not like that I screwed up, but show me, Lord, how I can learn in this situation.
Exactly.
What lesson is there for me in this situation so I can do better? My business coach, she's really a big thing of $0 launches. And I love that because, or you get clarity, excuse me, by taking action, something she really drives home. And I love that. And I found I have learned so much from just practicing my marketing skills, learning to raise awareness for my brand by speaking and launching. And even though I may not be making the ROI that I want yet, that is okay.
Yes.
I'm getting more clarity about how I want to market my business, what I want to do, what I don't want to do. I love, one of the girls in the group that I'm a part of said, I want to be this girl that figures out the 50,000 ways that don't work for me in marketing my business so I can be clear and really find and target and serve the people that I'm meant to work with, right?
Yes,
And same is true
absolutely.
with our life. And same is true with our lives. I want to omit the 50,000 ways that don't help me grow, that don't help me be a better wife, that don't help me be a better mother, that don't help me be a better business owner or coach, that don't help me be a better member of
Yes.
serving the body of Christ. That's what it's about. It's really not about all the other crap that the world tosses in our face that we need to do. It's not
Yes.
that way at all.
Exactly. And you have to develop that, well, what can I learn instead of why me attitude. So when you go through situations, we want to say why me because nobody wants to be uncomfortable, but you really have to develop that. What can I learn from this? So you can
Mhm.
pivot to your next level. So this is Soul Food with Sadie. So what we like to do is give people seed and let God water that seed. I'm all about becoming the best version of yourself. So what do you think would be a great seed to leave with the listeners?
I think right now, more than anything, it's just yourself grace. Just give yourself grace because life is crazy. It's not easy. Okay. It's not easy. It's not easy. And there is nothing wrong with that. Okay. You're learning. It goes back to that piece I talked about. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn and you're going to have to learn and leverage those mistakes. You're going to have to figure out what your strong points are, what your weak points are. It's a marathon. Okay. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Entrepreneurship is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Being a caregiver to a chronic illness is a chronic illness is something you have for the rest of your life. And it changes with different things and different triggers. So it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yes.
And life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Lean into that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you're going to have ups and downs. We expect it to be right here, just nice, easy, no issues. But more often than not, we don't get too many highs. We do get them, but averagely we're trying to keep it even just at the baseline. But what happens? We're on a lot of valleys. There's going to be a lot of valleys and those valleys are not fun. The last 2 years for me have been up and down, and it hasn't been fun. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I'm going to shoot, your girl's going to shoot you straight,
Yeah.
but just lean into the seasons.
Yes.
Give yourself grace and just take it one day at a time. And if you need help, reach out for support, build your support network, whatever you need, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. There's resources out there.
Yes, give yourself grace because the world is already putting everybody together and beating us down. So why not love yourself enough to give yourself grace? So someone is listening to this and they're going to wonder, how can they find out more about you? Where can they go to reach you?
Okay, your girl, buckle up. Your girl's everywhere. So I'm on Instagram at Melissa Miller 2011. I do daily reels and videos over there. So check out my content over there. And I'm very active in stories. Check me out on TikTok at Melissa Miller 2011. I have a Facebook page at Melissa Miller 2020. My website is a great resource. I'm at programs melissamiller2011.com. And also, if you go to programs Melissa Miller 2011 / Finding Your Balance, that's the waitlist page for my Finding Your Balance program. I am opening doors next month again. And I also have something else coming down the pipeline, which I will not give any details yet. You're going to have to wait to find out. So definitely be following my Instagram, though, or my TikTok, because I will be dropping details soon about that with the beginning of August. So, but that's all that's all your girl's going to give you. I'm not going to, I'm not going to give everything away.
Yeah, so you have to follow her, subscribe to her email list to keep up to date on everything Melissa has going on. Melissa, is there anything else you would like to give to the listeners?
Make sure you're amping up your self-care first and foremost.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's anything I've learned about seasons, if we're talking about seasons and seasons that are hard, definitely amp up on your self-care. And I'm not just talking physical. I mean, yes, make sure you're drinking enough water. Yes, you're getting 15 minutes of movement in a day. Yes, you're getting 7 hours of sleep. I'm running on under 6 hours of sleep. That's okay. I'll get more later. So, but amp up on your self-care and mental health self-care too. Do you need to talk to your pastor for spiritual? Do you need to talk to a counselor or therapist because you can't cope with how you've been trying to cope? And maybe it is time to see a counselor or therapist and get on some medication. Don't be afraid of those resources. There's a lot of shame for it, but here's the thing. You want to be your best self. Yes. And if you're chemically in your body not being able to cope right now, and you for a season, you need a little bit of medication to stabilize you, or you need to have a professional to give you better coping techniques so you're not so angry and frustrated and anxious, please do that. I would much rather you invest in those resources for a season than try to be tough and think, oh, I can do it on my own and go even into a bigger valley. Yeah, it's so tough to get out of the valleys if we don't. That's what happened to me with my IBS. I regret that so much. If I had listened to my body sooner in the fall of 2020, y'all, and gotten into my doctor sooner, I probably would have gotten diagnosed a lot sooner, for one, and then I would have gotten on medication sooner. I wouldn't have been sick for over a year. Wow. Don't be like me. Don't make those mistakes. Yeah.
So practice self-care. Like, I believe that a lot of times people think like going hard and sleeping when they dead and all these things that our generation says is just honestly not even worth listening to, because at the end of the day, you can have money, you can have fame, you can have material things, but if you ain't got your life or your health, none of that matters.
Nope.
Mental health,
or your faith,
physical health, that part, or your spiritual health. Mental health, spiritual health, and physical health is wealth. Mind, body, and soul. You have to take care of your mind, body, and soul. Thank you all for listening to Soul Food with Sadie. All her information will be in the show notes. So make sure you follow her on Instagram. Make sure you go to her website and find out a little bit more about what she does. She does something amazing. And I believe that God really was preparing you when you went to your classes for nursing assistants for such a time as this. Although the time is hard, although Absolutely. The season is hard, you're in a transitional season. What if you did not have the skills needed for that? So that's how I look at things as, okay, this is hard. I don't like it. It does not feel good. But God prepared me for such a time as this. And that is the goodness of God. He truly prepares us for what's to come. Like you said, he already knows. He already knows. So he will prepare you to go through the process to get you to your purpose. Thank you all for tuning in to Soul Food with Sadie. This is Melissa Miller. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Take care, everybody.
That show was so good. Melissa Miller talked about giving yourself grace. So the question that I want to leave with you guys is, are you giving yourself grace? And what does grace look like to you? Thank you for tuning in to Soul Food with Sadie.
I am thankful for health in my body, peace in my mind, ears to hear and eyes to see. I am thankful for hands to write, legs and feet to stand, and wisdom to understand the gems that were given unto me today. I am thankful that I can create a strategy that I can implement into my life. I am thankful I am divinely created for such a time as this. I will be thankful for the small things, because the small things are only preparing me for the bigger things that are coming into my life.